I'm sure, Tal, and you know it better than I do, is the skepticism won't be so much about the car, though I guess there are questions about costs and that, but about refueling and all that. And your answer is that there'll be posts everywhere and there'll be battery stations in plenty of places. The posts everywhere, let me talk about that.
All right.
Because we're staying in Jerusalem. It's tough enough finding a parking space.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find a parking space with a post that you can recharge. That seems doubly tough. How are you going to solve it? Are you going to put every parking space is going to have a post?
Actually not. What happens is that you're going to have two places where you're going to charge most of the time. One of them is at your home, the other one is at the office. Okay, you come back home, you drove 50 or 60 or 70 kilometers per day, which is what the average person is driving.
Right.
You come back home, you charge your car probably overnight, and then you start your day from a full battery, which is about 160 kilometers. You go to the office, you drove 30, 40 kilometers, you charge at the office as well. Our commitment is to make sure that for every company or every consumer, we're going to have one charge spot at home, and in most cases, for fleets, we're going to have also a distribution at their office. So between these two locations, you, in most cases, have enough energy to drive to your next destination, probably for the most of the day.
But let me stop you there.
Yep.
Because, okay, I can understand if you go to your office, you have a parking lot or a garage, whatever you have. I assume there's a post at every parking spot, so everybody who has a charger can charge up.
Yep.
That's that. But when I come back to my apartment in Jerusalem, where nobody has their own parking spots, they're all, you get them at random, or maybe they do in some areas, but not in downtown Jerusalem. And you have to find a parking spot. If you have an electric car, you have to find one with a post. So is every parking spot on the street going to have a post?
So street is much more challenging.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
What we are saying is that most of the people have at least one allocated parking spot at their house. All right, we buy an apartment building, usually have one reserved parking place, usually you have two because you have two cars. For those people who drive in the streets, we are willing to distribute also parking spots, or we are willing to distribute charge spots in streets as well, but you need to have also a commitment from the municipality. So for example, if you're an owner of an EV and you bought a car, you can also go to the municipality and tell them, you know, in this street I'd like to have one charge spot. Better Place is, by the way, willing to come in and install one for you. We're seeing this kind of relationship in Copenhagen. When in Copenhagen, the municipality is basically allowing an EV owner to have his own place in the street itself. It's reserved for an EV owner as well.
So it'd be an incentive, because if you have a battery car, then you get a private reserved spot, which if you don't, you have to go into the train system.
Absolutely. I mean,
is the municipality willing to cooperate?
Some of them do, some of them don't. And you know, the other alternative for Better Place is to come in and install every possible parking space in the streets, and that's not going to happen. You know, it's a very, very high investment for someone who, you know, for you to have a whole street or two streets doesn't make any sense. So governments, municipalities understand they need to be part of it as well. But for the most part, for the people we're after, which is not the people who are living in the center of Tel Aviv, living in the outskirts of Tel Aviv, usually they have an apartment building with at least one or two locations where they can park the car overnight. And our commitment is to come in and install a charge spot in this specific parking space for you. And
does it use the same current? You have 220 current here?
It's 220, 16 amps.
So it uses the same current, so there's no problem with
There's no problem. The only thing is that we have a smart charging, so it means that we are trying to optimize, we are optimizing the consumption of electricity so that we're not going to overload the grid, which is one of the unique things about Better Place. So that when you come back to the office in the morning and everybody's plugging in at the same time, not everybody gets electricity at the same time. We have a smart, intelligent charging mechanism that allows us to understand all the time how much energy there is in the grid, and also what's the consumer demand for electricity, and have a load balancer that allows us not to overload the peak at peak times.
Oh, that's very good. I didn't know that from your literature. Okay, that satisfies me on that.
We're getting you to buy the car. We're getting there.
Well, we have to come back to Canada, okay? Because in Canada, you have a problem of distance. I mean, I go to my cottage in the summer, which is a Canadian habit. It's 100, you know, it's in kilometers. Well, say it's 160 miles, so it's 250 kilometers or so, 300 kilometers. and that's more than the range of the car. That means everybody has to plan to stop on their way up to their summer home.
I bet with you, by the way, you probably stop without having to drive an EV, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, not always, but sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, it's usually you have a bathroom stop.
Right.
Especially if you have kids, you have to have it.
That's right.
But it's true. There's usually a plan for a stop. In this case, the guy who has the battery changer has the monopoly on forcing you to stop there. So it's fine, but it's going to be very busy, because if you think of the volume of traffic and you think of 5 minutes a car, that's you have to have a number of battery changing stations.
Which we will. Yeah,
and the battery is essentially going to be owned by the company. You don't own your own battery, because if you can change it all the time.
That's right.
So the battery is owned by the company. You always are provided with the battery.
It's part of the infrastructure, right?
So it's not part of the car,
right?
Which is a unique element.
You basically lease the battery, which is, by the way, the battery costs as much as the car. Just to put it in perspective. So it's an incentive for you as a consumer not to have to buy the battery from day one.
I see. Now, you say you're going to have a deal in Ontario. What kind of a deal are you discussing for Ontario?
It's not a deal. We basically come in and say, we would like to come in and have a similar solution that we have here in Israel, also in Ontario, in Toronto, to make it the first EV hub in Canada, which is something that we have been working on in the past 1.5 years. There is a lot of discussions with municipality, government, energy companies, vision partners. We would like to be in a position where we actually have the same model we have here in Toronto, and then replicate across the country as well. It's
going to be hard. It's a big country. It's not like Israel.
Yeah, but
or Denmark.
You start with transportation islands, right? You have 5, 6 islands in the country, and then you start connecting between the islands with a battery switch station. Same goes for Australia. Australia is a very big country as well. You don't do Australia in one day. You start from islands, 4 or 5 cities, you connect between them, and then you have a network, like from cell phone. At the beginning, not every place you could get a connection, but at the end today, you have, in most cases, you have connection, reasonable connection across the country. It's a network. It's growing. It's going to provide you a full coverage for most people in the coming years.
And is the McGuinty government expressed an interest in this?
I think we have a very good cooperation, not us, but the government itself has a high intention to provide the right incentives for consumers. They have in Ontario, they have the target of going with by 2020 with a fleet of 5% EVs by that time. We believe, by the way, that if we come in, we can make it about 15-20% by that time and increase the adoption of EVs. By the way, if that happens, you'll save $2 billion of gasoline every year. You'll save 4 million of CO2 emissions, and you bring more opportunities for people to come in and install the infrastructure. So it's a win-win for both of us.
But I assume you'll start with fleets. That's the easiest, of course. The companies that have big fleets and come back to the base station.
Yeah, fleets is one of the target segment for us, but same goes for private. And also here in Israel, in Denmark, in other places, fleets and private consumers, at the end of the day, will need to drive those cars, and we'd like to offer the same offering for both of them.
Well, if you're offering for people to drive the car, you have to give me such an offer. You're going to take me for a drive?
We do.
Okay.
Why do you drive?
You want me to drive it?
Go ahead, drive.
You trust me?
I trust you.
Okay. Let's
it.
go.
All right.
You have to show me how it works.
It's easy. But it's quiet, so not like a gasoline car.
Okay. Now, we put this in here?
Yep.
That's what you showed me to do? Okay. Press start.
Press start.
Press this down.
Yep. You're good to go.
I heard it that time. The last time when you did, I didn't hear it. And then you press drive, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's, that's the kind of thing that makes you uncertain, because you don't hear anything. You expect to hear a noise to start the car, and there's no noise, and yet the car started.
It's driving. Even if you push the gas, it's still not going to make that much noise.
No.
But try to accelerate.
Oh, I forgot to put my seatbelt on.
Multitasking.
It's multitasking, yes. You don't want to get a ticket.
That's a very strong acceleration as well.
Oh, very strong.
See, people don't expect it before.
No, that's surprising.
Yeah. For most people, an EV or electric vehicle is like a toy car that you have for your son or your daughter, and that's a full-size EV, which is actually enjoyable. It's one of the things you want to make sure the car is going to be enjoyable to drive, so that people won't compromise.
But that's the other than not hearing it when it starts, when you don't hear it accelerating, I guess it's an insecurity just because of the novelty. You soon get used to it, I assume.
Yeah, you get used to it. The other cool thing that we have done is that we have a trademark on car tunes.
Car tunes, I play on car
like
tunes.
iTunes.
I see.
So you can actually pick the noise you want to have, the sound you want to have. So if you want to have a Ferrari sound to your car, you can go ahead and have that as well. So people who want to have actually noise or sound can actually achieve it.
We have the window open, so we're getting sound that way. I should do up the window. How's your air conditioning in here?
It's very good.
Well, I'm glad you're willing to risk your car with me. How many people have you given test drives? You've been open 3 months?
Yeah, we had here a very high number. I think it's about 30,000 people.
And how many foreigners have come looking?
We have a lot of foreigners. Many delegations are coming over and seeing how Israel can actually come up with a solution that can be a big solution for the whole world. Problems we're going to all deal in the coming years, which is the emissions and transportation and gasoline dependency. If we can make it happen in Israel, there's no reason we cannot do it in other places. So many people are coming in to see what it is, understand the solution. So you liked it?
Yeah, very much, actually. Good. And I mean, as I say, I don't drive a car, so it's especially interesting. There's your keys. Well, maybe I should keep the keys.
You need to buy a car if you want to keep the keys.
How much does it sell for?
We want to make sure that that's going to be as expensive as gasoline car. So you're not going to pay more than what you're paying for an equivalent gasoline car.
I see.
Yeah.
And what do you figure the maintenance costs are?
It's part of the package. So the total cost of ownership, the ongoing maintenance, and the car itself will be lower compared to an equivalent gasoline car.
I see.
So if you take like a Mazda 3 range of a car, it's going to be similar in price. But get a bigger car. And it's quiet.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's you must. Have you had any negative, response?
There's all the time negative. People are, negative about the feasibility of doing something like this, about the technology, and about, how fast can it pick, and why gasoline, not hydrogen, and you cannot distribute so many charge spots. It's fine to be pessimistic. It's fine on our side to make sure that we are not getting confused by that. We have a very, very focused mission to make sure that we are enabling an adoption of EVs, mass adoption across the world, and we'll make it happen.
Well, it's fantastic. Well, thank you for the drive, and I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Oh, I want to see the change of battery.
You want to see the battery switch?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Can we do that?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's go do it.